Welcome, everyone, to the Culinary Now podcast. My name is Matt Britt.
And I'm Jamie Schick.
And today on the pod, we're joined by Taylor Hanson. Taylor is a Grammy-nominated musician, also the founder of Food on the Move, which is a philanthropic nonprofit aimed at combating food deserts throughout Oklahoma. Taylor, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, we are so excited to talk all things Food on the Move with you. And Matt did a great job kind of giving a really brief overview. But I think we should start with having you kind of talk about how Food on the Move came to be and what and kind of a little bit more about what it actually is.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, I love getting to chat with you guys, who have a passion for food and sort of its finer peaks, because you understand the value and the passion of food in kind of all its ways, the way it interacts with people in their careers and the way it interacts with communities. And I came at Food on the Move really with a lens towards just community strengthening. So I was inspired by a former U.S. ambassador who's an amazing guy. Having been a musician and kind of an accidental entrepreneur, I like to say all musicians are entrepreneurs, like it or not. I had learned a lot about just sort of deciding to follow a path. I mean, a lot of what you do with being a creative is you have to go all in. You can't have plan B and C. You have to sort of say, I'm going to do this. And the universe, because the universe knows when you're like doubting. And so after sort of being successful in doing music and things, I just had this sort of, I call the tap on the shoulder of something, a feeling of that there's just a lot more to do. And coming from Oklahoma is sort of a state similar to a lot. It has a lot of challenges. It has a lot of ups and downs. It's sort of a petri dish of America. I think it has a lot of the, whether you talk about, there's certainly wealth there, there's poverty there, there's racial issues, there's economic issues, there's highs and lows, there's, and so when I kind of came into the question of, hey, could I bring something more to my town? Where would I start? Can I focus on a specific issue, or how can I be a better contributor to my community? I was really inspired by a former U.S. ambassador. His name is Edward Perkins, and his work had taken him around the world as a U.S. ambassador. And what really struck me about his time was the way in which he was successful as an ambassador was really by focusing on making sure to have those relationships at a local level, really building relationships with communities. And because traditionally, ambassadors from a country, they, especially the U.S., I mean, you're the big dog in whatever room you're in. You can just hold court. Everybody come to me. You want to make a deal with me. You want to have good standing with America. And Edward Perkins was sent to South Africa at the peak of the apartheid government, which is, division between black and white, racial division at horrible level. The legend, the historic icon, Nelson Mandela, was in prison, seen as a terrorist by that government. And so he was sent to that country as an example of difficult challenge, with a job of how do I free Nelson Mandela from prison, build relationships with people, and essentially represent the U.S. in creating this transformational change. A huge job. And I say all that to say he had been in the most incredibly difficult situations, and he'd accomplished success as an ambassador. He'd built these relationships in toxic environments. He was responsible in large part to Nelson Mandela ultimately being freed from prison, the apartheid system ending in South Africa. And so my thought was, as a observer, having met him and in his time after being an ambassador, I thought, hey, if he can work with countries, like if he can work in environments where you have leaders, that are imprisoned, and, we're talking about peak, incredible stakes. Surely I could learn from him how to strengthen the community I'm from, how to work with people. And so that's Food on the Move was born from me sitting down with this man and saying, hey, I can't explain it. I think I've got work to do. I want to be a part of leaving my community where I grew up better than I found it. I want it to be, I want to, have done more than just paid my taxes and shown up here. And I said to him, if you were to really try and strengthen Oklahoma and looking at where we're from, because he taught in Oklahoma professor after his time as ambassador, so he had some familiarity with Tulsa and Oklahoma. And I said, where would you start? And he said, I would start with food. And so Food on the Move was literally born out of listening to Edward Perkins first saying, I would start with food, and knowing his example that he'd served and he'd built relationships with people and been successful as an ambassador. So like as high a level as you can go with building, relationships and struggles and finding common ground between different parties. And I took his approach that he'd used in those situations internationally and to understand food. And I basically just started meeting with all the stakeholders. I started cold calling people, the health department, the food bank, different nonprofits. And what I heard as I now, see it as sort of assembling a puzzle that doesn't actually exist. Like they're all the pieces are out there, but nobody even realizes they're connected. I heard the term food desert and the conversation about food insecurity, and it just sort of occurred to me that, okay, here's all the challenges. We got great people working in food. Food bank is great. You got a lot of really good. You got the Salvation Army that does certain things. You got this soup kitchen, but most people weren't collaborating. The nonprofits weren't working together, and food desert specifically was a term that was beginning to be born. So this started in 2014 is when we launched, but I started working on sort of understanding the concept back in 2012. So this is over a decade ago. And so after having these conversations, I just proposed sort of a concept, which was to say, look, if we're trying to do something different, build bridges, be an ambassador in our community, really live up to Edward Perkins' vision, I think we need to go where the need is. We need to be mobile. Like we have food deserts. We need to see how can we get grocery stores back, which is a food desert. Food desert doesn't have a grocery store, doesn't have fresh produce. It's basically just the death of a community, right? When you lose a grocery store. And so we set out to build Food on the Move with the principle of ambassadorship and relationship building, and then a curiosity and really a focus on asking different questions. So for very, very, very long answer to say Food on the Move, what we do and what we've built everything we do now on is we pulled together partners to say we're going to go into a community that has no grocery store and create a pop-up event where we can meet people where they are, give them access to fresh produce, and also have other mobile partners. We're not going to build a bunch of infrastructure. We're not going to raise a bunch of capital. We're not going to raise a bunch of money. We're going to say, hey, food truck, can you bring your food truck here to provide a meal? Hey, this, farmer, can we help you harvest so that we can bring your produce that may never reach anybody? Because a lot of small farmers don't have the hands. They harvest half a field and then the other half just rots because they don't have a distribution system. And we say, hey, if we can help you, could we donate some of that to community members that need it? We need to get fresh produce in people's hands. And ultimately, we need to learn, how are we going to get grocery stores back? And so our pop-up events, we do, they're fun. Everybody that comes pays whatever you can. So if you come, you can support it and you can show up and give some money to support and pay it forward. But it's free to everybody that shows up. And it's a partnership environment. And each of these pop-up events have food trucks for a fun, great meal that's mobile with a mobile kitchen. We have fresh produce. We give out a 30-pound bag of produce. It's all donated in partnerships with farmers and distributors. And then we see people as a whole person. So it's not just, hey, here's the food. It's, wow, you may have job opportunities needs. You may have healthcare needs. But we pull together, many, many, many partners to create that wraparound. And then ultimately we learn, and it led us, after 5 years, these pop-up events that we do where we're feeding people, it led us to basically an inconvenient reality, which is now kind of the projects that we're immersed in, which is that if we're going to change food deserts, we need to start training people to grow food again. We need better local food systems, and we really need to build a better infrastructure so that everybody has better access to fresh produce. And that means training a new generation of farmers and working on a different model for grocery stores. So boom, that's what Food on the Move does. And I fail on my elevator pitch.
No, it's an amazing answer, and it's such an inspiring origin story. And I love how it kind of embodies what you mentioned at the very beginning of the episode, which is to go all in on things that are important to you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're now realizing some of the bigger problems that are out there, and you're in your position to solve those problems based on your success over the past decade. But I guess my question would be, for someone who's looking to do something similar to what you did back in 2012, 2013, 2014 to get started, what are some of the initial obstacles that you faced trying to get this off the ground?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to have a mindset. If you want to build something new, basically, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a nonprofit or not, you're building something that has to make sense. You got to be stubborn as hell. I mean, this is you have to wake up hungry for something that's unseen. I mean, you kind of have to be fueled by your own fire. And I don't really know how to teach that, except to say, if you don't have that feeling, that tug at your heartstrings, or like I said, I call it the tap on the shoulder. I mean, whether it's a God thing or just a gut thing, it says you're needed, and the world needs you. And so the biggest obstacles, I think, at the front are realizing that there's probably not a roadmap for you. There's probably not, how do I follow this? The curiosity you have to have is, you really have to be curious about why something is the way it is. And I think about you guys with your education. I'm sure that's happening all the time with new practices and trying to get, chefs that want to innovate, and restaurants that have been, somebody that suddenly has a concept that they want to build a food trend that people are like, they're never going to buy that. Who's going to eat kale, or who's going to eat oysters, or who's going to, whatever pathway, in a specific area. There's always obstacles to the new. There's always obstacles to better. And so more than anything, I would say it's the determination to sort of trust your gut, like to trust, like there's something wrong, and I'm not going to hear no as an end of a conversation. I'm going to hear no as the start of the conversation. I mean, I'll tell you this. I'm actually, when somebody says yes, I get nervous. I'm like the opposite of, because when I look across the room and I pitch an idea and everybody gets it immediately, most of the time that means your idea is not that innovative. Like if you have every single person out of the gate go, that makes total sense, I completely get it, you might need to go a little further.
Yeah.
Because most people are not waking up trying to solve a problem. Most people are waking up, how do I take care of my kids? How do I have a nice job? I'd like to get some more golf time in. Nothing against that. I've learned that slowly and painfully, that most people, that's enough. It is enough, like just to take care of your family and be happy. So if you're waking up fired up about starting a new business or building a nonprofit or taking on a cause, you're probably kind of, you have somewhat of a disease that most people are like, gosh, why do you want to do that? And you have to find people that want to take that journey with you. They're ready to fight for something. And if you find them and they get it, and they want to get in there with you, and they want to be a part of it, they're out there. There's incredible people in every space. But when you get people that do really understand it, and they know what the work is, man, you hold on to them, and you say, you value them. You try and do everything you can to keep them, so you're not just the flailing, one-off, on your own, chasing some big crazy idea.
Yeah, that's that's definitely interesting to think about. What it made me think about, though, was we know that Food on the Move has been around for over 10 years now, and it has had a lot of success, and it's grown. And I'm wondering if you feel that part of that is because of your career in music, and therefore having a platform and an audience that's kind of already tapped into things that you're doing and have that automatic interest. Or do you find that this was a totally separate venture, and you didn't really want to merge the two?
Well, so I can never undervalue the experience that I've had. Many people know my name because of music, or at least, are curious. and certainly, probably got certain meetings out of the gate a little easier because I could say, "Hey, it's Taylor Hanson. Can we get a call?" But um, I really think Food on the Move is very organic. I mean, this is an Oklahoma-based deal, and what I do with music mostly is everywhere else. Oklahoma is where I'm from, but I would say absolutely it's been benefited by people's curiosity. I mean, whether it's our social media folks that are following us from around the world because they know me, I think that certainly benefited. And frankly, my experience, like what I've lived, I bring to the fight, of trying to make Food on the Move happen. Um, I think Food on the Move's real success in where we are today has been largely doing the work. I mean, showing up consistently in communities that are used to inconsistency. We setting a relationship goal building pathway, and then beginning to build a team that really has passion and believes in what we're doing and has helped scale it. And today, what we're working on is, and I said it led us to, hey, we need to train people to farm. We need to work on the food systems. We're literally building what we call a campus for food systems, and so it's called Food Home. And the Food Home is 4 areas. It's an urban farm. It's training people to grow things. It's future farmers. It's a food hub, which is a bridge between farmers and distributors and restaurants, which you need to help small farmers grow. And then the second 2 phases, we're in the first 2 phases now, but the second 2 phases are a hub for community, which also love to have you guys come when we construct it, which should be culinary training and community and a commissary kitchen and a space for people to meet and look at the power of food and sort of what it means in the community, both at a high level and just at a neighborhood level. And then our last phase, which we purposefully is the final step of the Food Home, is a new retail model. And the reason it's last is because it's the supply chain. You have to get better local food grown, better farmers supported, and before you get to the place of fixing the grocery store itself. And we've had on and off. We've experimented. We've tried things. We've done food delivery. We've done direct grocery, grocery bags for people that can afford to buy the higher end stuff today to help support buying produce for families that don't have it. And we've kind of looked at all the sides. So, I'm probably doing too much talking, but I think on this subject specifically of what Food on the Move has been made of, it really is. I think it's been about relationships, and it's been about building trust and showing up. And frankly, the fact that I have a history that has some notoriety because people might know my name or go, isn't that Mbop song? What is that? Is that you? Like, that helps, but it does not put food on people's table. What puts food on people's table is a farmer and a distributor that has relationships with other farmers and donors and nonprofits that we partner with and volunteers and team members that wake up every day and say, how do we make this happen? I mean, that's really what makes it happen.
And it also sounds like that's what sets you apart from, you mentioned like soup kitchens and the Salvation Army, because when you go there, you are getting food, but you're not necessarily getting the tools to be able to then provide yourself with learning how to cook or learning how to farm or learning how to grow and all of that. So it sounds like that's a big thing that sets you apart from these other places that are doing something similar. Like that education
Yeah.
piece, I think.
Yeah, education's huge. I mean, so Salvation Army, incredible, right? Institution. Like they do so much, and we have a wonderful food bank in town, and we work closely with them. But I would say what Food on the Move, what's really unique about the heart of what we do is we're really trying to understand and sort of change the system, which frankly is a pretty ambitious approach, period. And when I say change the system, it's to say we are not trying to just say, hey, this is how we make sure to feed every hungry person. We're trying to understand, how do we create less hungry people? How do we and because one of the things you see across the country, and honestly, it's I know people have all kinds of opinions on different, politics that are happening, but there is a national conversation that's been needed about the source of food and the quality of food and the toxicity of food. And whatever slice you want to take of who told you about those things, we've known that, and that's what Food on the Move has been working on the ground level now for a decade, which is, wow, we're food desert. If you have a food desert, what it means is the system of grocery stores, is a tiny margin business that's mostly been overtaken by mega industries. And behind that, it's supplied by mega corporate farms. And the system that we all live in is really does not provide a sustainable local food ecosystem for very many places. Most states have lost their middle-sized farms. The average farmer in America is 65, which means most farmers are getting out of the business of farmers, and farming. It's going to bigger and bigger, massive corporations. It's packed full of junk, so it can go on a truck, drive 1,000 miles, and show up on your grocery store. And
That's sad.
as a result, we're paying for petroleum instead of paying for tomatoes and farmers. And that sounds almost conspiracy. Like, I'm saying it just like,
No.
it's just simple. It's actually way simpler. And what's cool to me is, you heard my story. Here comes Taylor Hanson, don't know anything about food systems, meet a US ambassador who worked in South Africa. He says food. Now we're talking food trucks. It's like, how did we even get here?
Well,
And I think that's what's cool to me is, it's like, guys, if I can get to here, anyone can get here. Anyone can get to, guys, our food system's broken. It's common sense that if we want the urban community to do better, the neighborhood that has less, that we need to get the grocery store to be different. And the way to make it different, interestingly, and I think it's inspiring to me, is we actually need the urban and the rural to be collaborating. We need farmers and to get back into the conversation and to be helped, so we can get better food in people's bellies.
Taylor, you mentioned something that I think it's something I have a very strong. I mean, everyone on this episode has a really strong take on this, but like, I think what you're doing, and the reason that I applaud this effort, again, not to say anything about food banks and the Salvation Army, they all do an amazing job serving that need.
Incredible.
But what you're doing is you're attempting to kind of right the ship. And you said something, and I think it's because we've been inundated with this idea that the food system is broken. And, I disagree with it. I think the food system works perfectly for what it was designed to do. And it was designed not to honestly sustain a community of farming in the 21st century. And I think that what you're doing by providing education and trying to rebuild that, honestly, so important foundation, that's how you combat the food system. Not,
yeah.
And like we've heard that.
I hear you. You're saying, no, you're actually right. The food system that was designed to work for industrial food is working really well.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's actually an incredibly efficient system. It's just that system is really terrible.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. I mean, I mentioned sort of the sidebar of politics just for a second to say, when you get into these conversations, people draw lines invisibly about, they start to hear you. Like, if I say organic, or if I say green, or if I say supporting the business community, you use these little words, people start to think you're signaling where you're coming from. And look, what I've experienced is, if you go left far enough and go right far enough, you end up exactly in the same spot. And everybody is complicit in this debacle. If you're the most liberal, you overregulated and crushed small farmers can't keep up with a lot of stuff. The consumer protections that were put in place. I mean, we've got a food hub. We're in the process of getting GAP certifications, which are specific certifications needed for the distributors to even buy from small farmers. And a lot of them, they're like, I don't have the hour or 3 or 10 to even get there, but the corporate farmer can. And if you're the most conservative, if you're the pro-business guy, well, you looked away while we sent those jobs to China, and while we completely gutted and put subsidies in the hands of people to grow food that we don't even eat, And so everybody's a part of the problem. It's all of our fault. Okay. So put that aside. And what we need to do today is go, well, what's really cool is most communities, most states, let's just go at a state, could be growing a large portion of their food. And that could be supporting small farmers, medium farmers. And by the way, that means everybody wins. That means better tax base for your states. That means more supportive local communities. Farmers care about their cities, their towns, and that helps the urban community that needs a grocery store to be workable and sustainable and affordable. So we're just on this impossible, what seems like impossible path that I don't think is impossible. I think it's necessary. I think it's absolutely an emergency. And when it's hard, I'm like, yeah, we're on the right path.
I mean, that just speaks to needing to be persistent and not take no for an answer, and
Yeah,
keep going.
yeah, exactly.
Well, with this, just to kind of switch to something a little bit lighter, what do you have coming up in the future with Food on the Move? Any like fun events coming up that we should
Yeah.
let people know about?
Well, yeah. So first of all, we are still, we're every month we do our pop up events. We're Oklahoma focused, but we feel we're building a model. So here, by the end of our sort of trajected construction of the programs we're doing now, realistically 5 years from now, we hope that people could look at us and go, "Wow, this works. This is a model that could work in any community." But the fun stuff is every month we serve thousands of meals to community members with great food trucks and great partners. Anybody that wants to support Food on the Move, if you're from Oklahoma and happen to be listening, you can see all of our list of events. It's fueled by volunteers. We work with so many amazing groups teaching young people how to grow things in their community on raised beds, and how to put the power of technology like indoor farming, aquaponics and hydroponics in the hands of, middle schoolers, first graders. You have kids that can literally, go through our program and see like the power of their own hands with a few hours, a week to grow the food that they're going to eat. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, I want carrots. I want red bell peppers. I want kiwi. Obviously kiwi is a harder one to grow, but when they see fruits and vegetables, the fun for us on the ag team that now, is small but mighty is we see the light in the eye of young people that all of a sudden are like interested in eating better, not because they were told they had to, but because they feel a part of it and they like it. And they're, it's proven statistically that when you grow something, you are, and specifically, even when you interact with a particular food at, before the age of 10, you are dramatically more likely to just eat that and want to eat that throughout your life because you like it. It's familiar. It's like, but if you've only eaten corn dogs and, fried chicken, or whatever the thing is, all those things I love, these are all delicious, but you're afraid of it. You don't even, you're like, oh, black eyed peas or pick your fruit, pick your vegetable. We have folks that have never seen a red bell pepper. You're like, I didn't know it came in red. You're like, wow, what is that? And so the fun stuff is hands-on education that's happening, that we see the light in young people's eyes, which is super inspiring. The community events we do each month, three community events where regional, here in Tulsa, where there's food trucks and great produce and resources that people get access to. And then we have a couple special things that we do in the community each year. The team always looks forward to, which is like a special, holiday meals that we do with the Girl Scouts as we head into the holidays, which always is a huge one because these are families that, girls whose moms are incarcerated. And so it's a Girl Scout troop specifically that we've been supporting now for many years, that we're like, hey, let's help them get an amazing family meal because maybe they don't have, specifically moms that are in prison. And so it may be grandma, maybe, uncles and dads. And so you're trying to help create this home, loving environment that those girls get to experience. And that comes through partnerships with our farmers and suppliers and not just doing like a few cans of, cranberry sauce, but like great food that they really get to have that great family meal. And honestly, one of the things that I love most about what Food on the Move is doing is we're always partnering. We're always finding ways to come alongside another nonprofit or another organization or get volunteers out. And we actively work to have a combination of somebody that is, from a for-profit, so a food truck or a business, or having them help, contribute something, having the nonprofit, of course, and also the role of whatever government agency in your community, whether it's city or state, they have a role to play. So those 3 points, they all have a role to play in getting these things done. And when you see them working together, it feels like, oh, yeah, we can do this. This is possible. If these people can all come together, then we can make these changes happen.
Honestly, man, so inspiring. And
It
just for
really is.
those who are looking to get involved, I know the Food on the Move website is foodonthemoveok.com. There's a place to donate there. You can find out all the events that are going on.
Yep.
Take a visit. Just to kind of bring us full circle and to wrap, couple easy pitches for you to hit here. In the end, just sort of fun stuff. You mentioned corn dogs, sort of that comfort food being stuff that, of course, you love, but you shouldn't eat all the time.
Yes.
What is your favorite go-to like snack food? Just so for the listeners knowing.
Well, I mentioned corn dogs because I love corn dogs. Actually, absolutely love. Like I could eat like 10 of them.
I've never had a corn dog.
Oh, you're missing out.
Hold the phone. Stop.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true.
Okay. So the next, fair corn dog. These things are delicious. It's fried. It's batter. So I love pie. I'm a huge pie guy.
But what kind of pie? Fruit pie?
Fruit pie. Yeah. Probably cherry pie is my top. It's a memory.
You're talking to a pastry chef. I need the details.
Yes.
Here.
No, I actually have a code with people. I'll just like sort of cake or pie.
Yeah.
And that tells you a lot about somebody,
But you're going to pick pie.
I'm a pie. I'm in the pie column, because you can't really have a savory cake. So I feel like pie kind of wins. You can have meat pies. So yeah, and then as far as other foods, I actually really do love to cook. And my passion for food, we talked about this when we had the pleasure of visiting you guys on campus, and it was such a fun thing to be around all those foodies and talented chefs. I love, Italian food is my love language. I think I discovered food. I ate food for the first time, I feel like, when I went to Italy 25 years ago. And I was like, oh, this is what food actually is supposed to taste like. There's and that, honestly, bringing us back to this conversation, I am such an American. I love our country. I love our community. I love who we are, good and bad. We have all kinds of things to work on, right? Major problems, but I still believe in my roots. But I've also left a lot as a musician, as a traveling person, I've gotten to see a lot of beautiful things, and having that epiphany that maybe we could do a lot better in food. That's okay. Like you can believe in your community, in your state, in your country, and say, you know what, we're not doing well here. And when it comes to food, we have unbelievable resources. But like you said, there is a system that's working really well. It's just a really bad system. And so, honestly, if anybody is listening, every chef, every food passion, I practically would like to give you my cell phone, just because we need everybody. We need people that believe in better and are willing to do the work to begin to build what's better. And I think we're on the track with Food on the Move to build a path that says, you get that food hub, you build relationships with small farmers, you train future farmers, and then you work to have that really show a path that says, you know what, better food's possible. And that's going to be how we make it more affordable. And that's how we get less people, not just to feed people that are hungry, but have less people that are hungry because they had the ability to buy better food because it was more affordable and it was better for them. And maybe there's even, future opportunities that we've missed, which is a whole generation of people that decide, I'm going to grow food. I'm going to be a farmer. Because last time I checked, if we don't eat, we kind of end, as a civilization. So food's pretty essential. So I'm pretty stubborn about that. I think we can get there. It's just going to take some time.
Well, I think that that's like a perfect way to sum it up. And I also think that your unique experience of being able to have traveled to so many different places and seen so many different types of cuisines and countries and everything, I think that puts you in a unique spot to do what you're doing and to have the background knowledge to go forward with Food on the Move. And I think you summed it up beautifully right there. And I think that's a perfect place for us to end. So thank you for
Thank
taking
you.
the time to chat with us this morning.
Oh my gosh, what a great chance to talk with you guys, and thanks for inviting me on.